And I want to make sure let's see on my computer before we start. How's everybody's day?
Good, good.
Put some water in everything. You just have to wash that down, don't you?
Look, he's like, don't walk over with that much, you're gonna give me a little bite. He's like, give me that crust.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, give me that crust.
Heather was giving him some watermelon at Tony's house, and you guys should have seen him when she took it away from him. He was not happy.
He was so mad. Just give it back.
Well, he's got one tooth that's coming through, and it's not all the way out yet, so he can bite, but poor thing, he can't chew it once he gets it in his mouth, so he's just got like a big old bite sitting in there that he's like, yeah, I'm like, dude, you can't eat it yet.
He
You
was
can like
trying
try
to-
it. Oh, and he can bite it. I mean, he will bite, but he can't. He don't got his back teeth yet.
Right.
For sure.
It's funny to watch him eat. I let him eat a Cheeto earlier. That's like, yeah. And that was like my thought process. Kind of like the teeters.
Yeah.
I think you enjoyed
Oh yeah, Tracy got him some. Oh, you guys saw at the house. I need to go get some more of this because he's already ran through all of them.
And I used to eat them. When I would feed him, I'd get 5 and he'd get 2.
Oh, I like the little Cheerios ones. You know what I'm talking about? Those are really good.
I'm not sure if they like them.
Those definitely
It's
are
hard.
really good.
It's unfallen tonight. We're gonna try that tomorrow.
And the thing about that is, when you make it, if you want to make it, you do whatever. Next time you make it, you do whatever. It's like a Rodeo. You usually buy them out. You can buy them at a $50.
We bought the one that they had Sam's, I think it was the mom. It was fine, because they have the big pack of them, which she would buy $2 each. And then we bought, they had this Mexican street corn. And I made it, what's that, last week?
Walmart has Southwestern sweet corn.
Yes.
The only, which is like the Mexican sweet corn, it is supposed to be more spicy, they have fried it, but the other
Yeah.
one is basically the same thing without all, without heat.
The one I got at Sam's is,
But that's what we put in
yeah,
that casserole in there.
the one I got at Sam's is Del Monte Mexican street corn, and it has a little bit of a kick to it. It's not all
Is it little can?
Yeah, it's big
We'll have.
cans, and it was a whole box of
Yeah,
them.
we'll have to look.
They probably ain't gonna carry it forever, you know how they
We'll
do.
have to go with.
They put something out there that everybody loves and it
Yeah,
disappears.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, slaughter. She's getting a bath. She's getting a camera bath. Or a walk bath. Yeah,
Camera walk.
yeah.
It's easier, because you know, you're gonna say camera, you're used to it, so camera walk.
I'm always saying, hello, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so last week, we are gonna of just briefly go over what we did last week towards the end of today, just to get everybody caught up before we make the final point. And just in case if any new listeners on the video missed it, it'll bring them up to speed real quick. We're not going to go anywhere in depth, but just the general idea last week. Today we're going over Egyptian mythology, its framework, and the creation cosmology for the Egyptians. So you can see I got number 1 up here. This is the main belief or the centralized belief of the Egyptians for most of their history. Heliopolitan. It refers to the city Heliopolis, which you're going to see is a common theme amongst all 3 creation stories. Each story is going to revolve around the patron god of that city being the strongest or the highest creator, or the creator with the most power. So they're going to take their god and put their god above everyone else every time. Before we get into the specifics for each, I just want to set a framework. So we're going to see for 2 of the major ones, there isn't a God who exists outside of anything. So the gods are going to be born from what's seen as the primordial waters, or what they refer to as Nun, N-U-N. So they believe these primordial waters have always existed. They existed before anything else, and that the gods came from that, and specifically one god came from that and birthed the rest of their pantheon. So they don't necessarily believe a creator made it. They believe they came from chaos. So it's a lot. It's a lot of crazy stuff. But they believe that there was order, or what they would call ma'at, had to be established, and that was the role of the divine pantheon that they worshiped in a pharaoh. So they were charged with maintaining order. They couldn't let the primordial waters overrun, because that represented chaos. So if they weren't there to protect the people of Egypt, the evil god of the water would come and wipe them out. So it certainly makes sense why they want to build pyramids for those gods. They're responsible for saving their life every day with what they believe, at least.
Did people come out of these waters too?
Or was it just the gods?
The gods.
Okay.
The gods, we won't touch on this, so I'll just go ahead and mention it now. But what separates kind of any mythology from Christianity, specifically with human beings, is that we'll see a repeated theme where these lesser gods will create human beings as tools to be enslaved to them. Every time, pretty much. Humans are just slaves, lesser creatures. It's only in the Bible we get to be equals. So that's pretty crazy. Okay, so like I had just mentioned, Nun. So let's start with the Heliopolitan creation, or what scholars refer to as the Ennead. This is the most famous of the Egyptian creation myths. It centers on a group of 9 deities, so their pantheon, their 9 gods, known as the Ennead. The emergence, so a mound of earth rose from the primordial waters of Nun. Upon this mound stood the creator god Atum, who became associated later on with the sun god Ra. They'll merge these 2 images, and we'll see that later on. The first generation, because Atum was alone, he was personified with female and male characteristics. So we'll see what he does is he spits and sneezes, and the next 2 gods, Shu and Tefnut, are birthed. So they're birthed from a deity that comes out of the waters and sneezes one into existence and spits the other one out.
Is that A-T-E-N, A-T-U-N?
Like this. A-T. Atum.
M, okay.
And then I mentioned so from Atum, we get the lesser gods. Tefnut. Tefnut. And Shu. Alright. And then Tefnut and Shu are going to have an incestuous relationship, which they will then birth the second generations of gods, which is Geb, the god of earth, and Nut, not Tefnut, just Nut, the goddess of the sky, which we're about to see. So they have an incestuous relationship, and they birth these two, Geb and Nut. Well, I guess Geb, Nut. And this is something we're going to see again, is that Geb and Nut are going to also have an incestuous child. Well, the way the Creator God dealt with the first one is he permanently exiled Shu and Tefnut so that they were out of the picture. All right, so for the second generation, like we talked about, we have Geb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky. What happens? Well, Ra comes along, or Adum comes along, and permanently separates them. And that's what we consider where we walk around. Geb is beneath us, and the goddess sky is above us to the Egyptian. That's why there's a plane of existence in between. So you're going to see all of everything we observe around us, they're going to explain as being a divine entity or a god. A god is responsible for the earth. That's why it's here. The god is responsible for the sky. That's who represents the sky. So we're going to see that every time. But the third generation from these guys, that's where we get some really familiar names. Osiris, Isis, Set, some less ones. Nephthys is another one. That'll go on, and that'll go to create the pantheon. But the big stuff here is that Atum, physically, from his body, his offspring come, then they have an incestuous relationship, birth Geb and Nut. Geb and Nut go along to have another incestuous relationship and birth the pantheon. Then they're separated, and that explains the sky and the earth to the ancient Egyptian. So that is the first column of creation. The second one is going to be, we'll have some similarities here as well. This was Mephite, wrote an R for some reason. But they were in what was the ancient Egypt, what was called Memphis. So that's a pretty old name, look at the city of Memphis, but that's been around for a while. When Memphis became the capital of Egypt, its priests elevated their local craftsman god called Ptah. So like I said, you'll notice that they're going to make their local god the strongest. Instead of physical creation, like Atum, Ptah created the universe through the power of his heart and through his tongue. So you're going to see this is going to mirror the Genesis creation a lot. And that's really it. They believe all these same things. They just believe Ptah, even with the Mephites, they borrow from all the pre-existing things that exist, and then they just take their God and say, well, our God created this guy, not the primordial waters, so he's in charge of everything, and everything is still the same. They weren't very philosophical with that change. They kind of just shoehorned them in from our perspective. And then number 3. This is getting back to that idea of chaos I talked about. Is the So we'll have the Hermopolitan, which instead of being from Heliopolis, comes from Hermolopolis. And you'll see here, we had the Ennead, which was the Egyptian pantheon. They focus on a different idea called the Ogduad. The myth focuses on the fundamental elements of the universe before creation. It features the Ogduad, a group of 8 primordial deities grouped into 4 female and male pairs representing the chaos of Nun, which Nun is the primordial waters we talked about. These gods cumulatively represent the chaos or the evil of the water. We're going to see a lot of the same names. Nun, the water. We go back to Atum, who they'll call Amon. Let's write this. Water. And like I said, they'll be in pairs. So we have moon.
You got some primordial waters going.
Okay, listen to me, boy. Chaos waters.
So Cameron, last week, all the gods that you went over is that they believed in Egypt, and how God demonstrated that He is God of
Yes,
gods over
we're
there.
going to circle
This
back.
is where they all came from,
Yes,
right? This was
yes.
their initial belief, and then, okay.
So this is like, you know, like for us, Adam and then the story.
Okay.
It's the same thing for them that it would be like Ra and all these gods. It's the story. This is the creation
This
of
is
the
how they came
universe.
from. Okay.
Yep. Which was darkness, which is Kek and Koket. So you'll see all of these things represent what I would think of as like an infinite source. Like when you look out at the darkness, it's infinite. You can't see where it begins and stops. The water is the same way in their mind. When they look out into the ocean and the sea, they endlessly see water. Hiddenness is a moon and Amnat. Like I said, a moon will be the same as a tomb. This is where they synthesize those two and he becomes the sun god Ra. The hiddenness of him, they call him Amun Ra because he's the all-powerful hidden god of the sun. That's where those two ideas come together. And then we have the last pair, which is He, Slash, Hot. which represents infinity. The 8 gods interacted, causing a cosmic imbalance that resulted in an explosion or a cosmic egg hatching from which the sun god emerged to bring light and order to the world.
Like Big Bang.
Like Big Bang.
Okay.
Like Big Bang. All right. Do we have any questions on that part so far? And I'll give everybody a time or a second to get notes before I and we move to part 2. All right. Very good. I need my razor. And some of those guys we talked about last week, we're going to talk about a little bit more in this part. I guess I did that part up there last time. B. Now we're getting into the gods that were birthed from all this creation. And we'll start out where we just left off, which was the sun god being born, Ra. Maybe a little. Ra, the supreme sun god. He was believed to sail his solar bark across the sky during the day and journey through the perilous underworld known as Duat at night, fighting the chaos serpent Apophis. So every day, their god Ra dies and is born again. So he's born every morning, and that's how the sun comes across the sky, and when it sets, he dies. And he goes through the Egyptian hell, which we'll get into more detail. But before we do, I'll just explain it simply, which they believe in 12 sections. Each is represented by an hour. So to pass through each section, you have to know the password. Well, Ra, being the supreme deity, knows the passwords. And every time he gets to hour 7 or gate 7, he has to fight the ultimate evil in Egyptian cosmology, who is capable of destroying the entire world. So when we remember Plague 9 and the sun doesn't rise, to the ancient Egypt at that time, they think Ra just lost that battle. He's stuck in the underworld because he's incapable of reincarnating to bring the sun back up. So that was some pretty serious stuff when that happened, kind of like we were talking about last week. Then we have, like I mentioned, a moon, also known as a moon rock. A ridge. of Thebes, which is a city in Egypt. He rose and became the king of the gods during the New Kingdom, and he was often merged with Ra as Amun-Ra, representing the ultimate hidden power of sun and creation. Now we get to Osiris. Like I mentioned last week, Osiris is the god of the dead, resurrection, and agriculture. He was Egypt's first mythological pharaoh, murdered by his jealous brother Set, and resurrected by his wife Isis to rule the underworld. He is usually depicted as a mommy holding a crook and a flail.
A what?
A crook and a flail. Then we have his wife, who is Isis, the goddess of magic, motherhood and healing. She's the devoted wife of Osiris and the protector of her son, Horus. She was one of the most widely worshipped deities, even beyond Egypt's borders. I mean, even now,
Oh,
you
yeah.
hear people about,
Yes.
Isis.
You're talking names that are in common vernacular nowadays.
Now.
Yeah. Those other cats don't hear that much about, but
Little cheat.
Good job.
Force that habit. Not often. Am I writing that word? The next god is Set, also known as Seth. He's the god of chaos, storms, violence, and the desert. While often seen as the villain for murdering his brother Osiris, and that's certainly how they would portray him to the modern audience, he was also respected for his raw power and his role in defending Ra. So like I mentioned, Ra had to reincarnate every night during the 12 cycles. Well, cycle 7, he comes to fight the serpent, which that's what that is. It's an ultimate evil serpent. You know, kind of like if we look at Norse mythology, they have a very similar, where the serpent is the ultimate big bad. So it kind of overlays with us some there. But the serpent is stopped by Set every night. He stops him to that rock and continue to do his journey. So he takes one for the team, pretty much. And I'm gonna start writing.
Sad, I'm trying to keep your finger. You won't let me. You won't let me bite it tonight.
We have Horus, which is another well-known one, who is the god of the sky and kingship. The son of Osiris and Isis, he defeated Set to avenge his father and reclaim the throne. The living pharaoh was considered the earthly embodiment of Horus. He is depicted as a falcon or a falcon-headed man. Kind of like we mentioned last week, there's an interesting paradox in Egyptian mythology here, where they think Horus is the pharaoh is the physical embodiment of Horus. Well, what happened in later Egyptian mythology is that Pharaoh was smart, and at one point Pharaoh had him equate Horus with Ra. So at that point, Horus was a shoe-in for the physical embodiment of Ra on earth. So Pharaoh got to become the ultimate big deity. So Pharaoh took his position as the son of the big bad and jumped up and said, "No, I'm him too." And that was got now, the gods of death and the afterlife. This is probably another one of the household names, but we got Anubis first up.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the jackal-headed god of embalming. So, embalming,
That makes sense.
mummification in cemeteries, he guided the dead in the afterlife and presided over weighing of the heart, ceremony where a soul's worth was judged. So earlier, if you remember, we talked about the patron god Ptah and how he spoke things. Well, they say he spoke it from his tongue and his heart, because the Egyptians understood the heart as the physical container of the human soul. So, like we mentioned, when God changes Pharaoh's heart, that's not coming from a human perspective. He's actively telling the Egyptians, no, I can change the thought process of anyone I want. Your Pharaoh, your God, isn't in control.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's some big stuff. To an Egyptian, it should be. It should be. So that is the God.
But knowing that the Egyptians believed this way, when the plagues happened, it doesn't talk about it, but can you imagine the panic and fear and chaos they must have been going through to see all of this has been put down?
Yeah.
All this that I've always been taught and told for years has been put down. Yeah, what they went through.
And then we got 3 more behind it. We got Hathor. That sounds Norse to me, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't sound Egyptian. That was the goddess of love, beauty, music, and dancing. And then we have, this is a hard one for now. Bastet. If anyone has a better way of saying that, feel free. That's what I got now. Which is the goddess of the home, women's secrets, and fertility. So, like I said, everything they can observe, and I mean, we're going into this is the pantheon that every Egyptian would worship every day. But if we would be here for hours, we went over every god that they had. They had over 2,000 gods in Egypt and Apollo.
This last one that you wrote that you said has the secrets of
Yeah.
women. Did
Yeah.
she write a book?
Couldn't tell you.
Because to this day,
Yeah, there's hidden. Never been found.
no, gone.
And how many volumes is it?
This is volume 1. Volume 2. And there's 100 volumes.
And dictionaries to help you understand.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the gods before we move to part 3? And we're building here. Trust me. I know but we're going to land this point.
Hey!
It seems like a lot of crazy looking puzzle pieces, but eventually they're all going to snap together and be like, oh, okay.
No, it's crazy how all this stuff fits together, I'll say. But I think the more interesting thing is I'm tried looking into it, but that god Ptah, I write everything on the board. I was seeing if it had any relation to when Joseph came to Egypt and his family migrated, if that belief could have stemmed from Goshen and a monotheistic creation story from them, which I'm looking into, so we'll see. But maybe somebody has to ask that question. There might not be answers. biblical exodus and the defeat of the Egyptian pantheon. So we are just going to circle through. This will kind of be a brief summary of what we went through last week, while including a new detail I found relevant to the whole story. In the context of ancient Near Eastern history and theology, the biblical narrative of the Exodus is represented not just as the liberation of the Israelites, but as a direct theological clash between Yahweh, the God of Israel, and the gods of Egypt. The book of Exodus explicitly frames this conflict as a demonstration of divine supremacy against all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgments, Exodus 12:12. And then we're just going to go through real quick. This will be a quick breakdown of the plagues as polemics against the gods. Many historians and biblical scholars view the 10 plagues not merely as random natural disasters, but as targeted attacks or polemics designed to dismantle the Egyptian pantheon and expose their powerlessness to protect their domains. The Nile turned to blood. The plague directly attacked Hapi, the god of the Nile's annual flooding, and Canaan, the guardian of the river source. Because the Nile was also sometimes viewed as the bloodstream of Osiris, corrupting it was a direct assault on Egypt's source of life and agriculture. The frogs, the target, Heket, the frog-headed goddess of fertility and childbirth. While frogs are normally a symbol of life, Yahweh turned the symbol against them, making it a suffocating nuisance. Livestock, disease, and voids. These plagues challenged gods associated with agriculture, healing, and sacred animals, such as Hathor, the cow goddess, Apis, the sacred bull, and Imhotep, the god of medicine. Hail and locusts. These strikes devastated the crops, proving that Nut, goddess of the sky, and Set, god of storms, could not protect the heavens, nor could Osiris protect the harvest. 3 days of darkness. This was a profound strike against Ra, the supreme god of Egypt. By blocking the sun, Yahweh demonstrated total dominance over the chief deity of the Egyptian pantheon. The death of the firstborn. The final plague was an attack on Pharaoh himself, who worshipped the living incarnation of Horus and the son of Ra. It also shattered the concept of Ma'at, or what we talk about cosmic order, right? It shatters this concept to the Egyptian, because if Pharaoh is incapable to maintain order and protect his own son, what order can he maintain? He allowed his own son to be killed in his own home. That's some big business if I think he's the guy protecting my family from those evil waters. All right, here's where we add the conquering of the primordial chaos, the climax of the Exodus narrative. The parting of the Red Sea also resonates deeply with ancient Near Eastern mythology, including Egypt's concept of none. In the ancient world, the sea often represented primordial chaos, death, and untamed natural forces. When Yahweh parts the waters to let the Israelites cross, and then brings those same waters crashing down upon the pursuing Egyptian army, it mirrors the ancient motif of the creator God subduing the chaotic primordial waters to bring about a new creation. By doing so, Yahweh not only conquers the physical army of Pharaoh, but also demonstrates ultimate mastery over the primordial chaos that the Egyptian gods themselves were born from.
Oh, yeah.
Boom. Yeah.
Take that.
And then that was not much to write there. That was finishing up from last week. Any questions on that before we move to part 4?
Complete devastation.
Complete, utter devastation.
And knowing the backstory of what Egyptians believed.
It's
Makes
crazy.
the true story of the being rescued from the Hebrews being rescued more alive when you realize everything that that God crushed underneath, I mean, everything. Their thought processes, their way of, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I know I mentioned it last week, but recent developments have come out, and they're finding this amongst every ancient society, but they've just found a tomb in Egypt they're currently translating, where they believe that the upper class or the high societies of all of these cultures had a monotheistic religion. So they didn't believe what they preached, so to speak. They worshiped completely different deities than what they told their common people to worship.
Wow.
Yeah. Like in Assyrian mythology, only the elite could worship the big god Asher. And we're saving that stuff for next week. But part 4, the journey to the afterlife. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not the end, but merely a transition to a new phase of existence in the field of reeds, a heavenly paradise that mirrored the idolized Egyptian landscape. However, achieving eternal life was a perilous process that required extensive preparation. The autonomy of the Egyptian soul. Egyptians believed human souls was multifaceted. The 3 most important parts for the afterlife were Ka, which is the life force or spiritual double of the person. It remained in the tomb and required offerings of food and drink to survive. You have the Ba. What the Ba is, it's the personality or character of an individual, often depicted as a bird with a human head. The Ba can leave the tomb during the day, but had to return to the physical the physical body, the mommy, every night. I would say the Ba is one's character. And then the Ak. It's a crazy way to spell that. The Ak is the fully transformed, immortal spirit that was created when the Ka and the Ba successfully reunited in the afterlife. So that's what you would spend your time doing with your Ba, your character. You would spend your time during the day searching to reunite so that you could go to the next part of the afterlife. That looks a little different depending on where you're at in the class system. So for Pharaoh, he gets the royal red carpet. Anubis comes and grabs his hand and takes him and gives him the pearly white treatment. And if you're a farmer, good luck. Nobody's going to feed your spiritual body, so you're going to be hungry eternally in death. You may or may never find your body because you don't know where it's at out there. So they believe this field of reeds was a perfect mirror of Egypt. So if you guys have ever heard the term as above, so below, that's essentially what they believed. Everything that was above, the afterlife was perfectly identical in a paradise underneath. To navigate, let's write this real quick. I just wrote the ka plus the ba equals a ka, and it just represents the immortal soul to them. So once they've reunited these two aspects of their soul, they go into the third form, which is them combined together to reach immortality. So we'll see the Book of the Dead. So we'll notice that, like I said, depending on your class, that depends on a lot in the afterlife. Like I had mentioned, there's certain things going into the afterlife that a practitioner wants to know. You have your 12 hours or your 12 sections. So the Book of the Dead, to navigate the dangerous underworld, the deceased were buried with a personalized collection of magical spells, passwords, and instructions. Known today as the Book of the Dead, this text served as a guidebook to help the souls bypass monsters, lakes of fire, and magical gates. It does sound like a video game. It's crazy. Everybody good here? All right. Ain't that something, right?
So when we read in Genesis, and Joseph is bringing his family up to Egypt because of the famine, and he tells his dad, when you go to Pharaoh to present yourself, tell him you're a herdsman, and they're going to give you this section of land, because, and it explicitly says that to an Egyptian, herdsmen are detestable. It's like lower than the farmer class kind of.
Yeah, because they would, it was kind of like if you think Rome with Paul. Paul had exclusive immunities because he was Roman, so they couldn't crucify him.
Right.
Think the opposite, because they were Egyptian, they wouldn't let them do that job. It was beneath an Egyptian to do a job like that.
Mm.
So they would outsource it to slaves or people willing to do it that were foreigners. Like I had mentioned, the heart is seen as the soul. So they have a ritual at death called the weighing of the heart. It's the final and most crucial test, and it's when you reach Osiris. It's overseen by Anubis and reported by Thoth. So you got a bunch of gods here. They're taking everything down. They put your heart on a scale, and they're weighing it out to see if you deserve to continue to exist. The deceased's heart was placed on a scale opposite the feather of Maat, or the feather of life, the feather of truth. The deceased had to recite the negative confession, listing all the sins they had not committed in life. If the heart was lighter than or equal to the feather, the soul was deemed worthy and passed into the field of reeds. If the heart was heavy with sin, it was immediately devoured by Ammit, a terrifying demon with the head of a crocodile, the torso of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. This resulted in the permanent destruction of the soul, the second death.
Also, they had a concept of second death.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so measuring your heart to a feather.
And that's like this.
About drawing a picture of that animal.
Yeah.
That's a freaky looking thing.
A hippopotamus back and an alligator mouth.
Mouth, and then
That,
the body was one.
wow,
Yeah,
I'd like to see that.
weird.
Weird.
I don't know, there's my scale. It's not half bad.
Oh,
But that's essentially what it would look like. A scale like this. Show off. Anytime. All right. Does anybody have any questions before I just ask some questions to the class for some feedback?
Did you find anything, there's an aspect to the Exodus that is just amazing to me, and it may not be related to the God showing his superiority to their gods, but this thing where God told Moses, and by the way, on your way out the door, collect the silver and the jewels from everybody. And and then we'll go. And they did it.
Yeah.
They took, they
Yeah.
gave up their
I know.
belongings. And I wondered, I hadn't thought of this connection, but I wondered.
Certainly, they were probably afraid for their life and gave it up. But I do know we have, this is 100% historical proof, found the tomb of Joseph, which we have found completely empty with no body in it. So we know for a fact that they took the bones of Joseph, like it says. So, you know,
I think that
that's
is
still.
so cool that they found his tomb and it is empty.
There is a mural to what he looked like on the wall. You can look it up. It's pretty cool. They really did a lot back then. But all right, I have some questions. You know, anybody feel free to answer. If there are no answers, we'll move on. The first one pertains to geography and belief. How do you think the physical environment of the ancient Egypt, specifically the predictable flooding of the Nile River, influenced their creation myths and their general optimistic view of the afterlife?
Well, given all the gods that they believed in and they were pretty much humbled down to being able to do nothing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that their belief was probably shattered, and everything they've ever believed in was proven to be false.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting that we'll see in any of these groups the gods that teach mankind this. And this goes back to like the book of Enoch. The gods that teach mankind this claim ownership over things. They don't claim to create anything. None of them claim to create the earth. They claim to own the earth, or they claim to be the earth. They claim to be something that is created. That's where we stand outside of them. We immediately start off with God creates everything. Totally different. So let's go back to question 2, the power of words. Like I mentioned, the second group, they had their patron god Ptah, and all he did was speak things into existence. Do you guys think that is an interesting parallel with what we believe? Or how would you think, like, there's multiple cultures that believe this, why does the human mind put so much weight on words?
Well, they are powerful, they control your emotions.
They matter.
Yeah.
They do matter.
I mean, I agree. Every ancient language uses words to denote exact meaning. They're not like we use words. There is no go, right? That's implied.
Would you say that the words reveal what's in that thing right there on that scale?
Yeah, they will. And that's why they do the reverse confession. Confess every sin you haven't committed. That's crazy. I figured they'll spend less time. That's why they do it that way.
Be like, okay, got
10
nothing.
years long.
Done them all.
Cosmic balance. The idea of Ma'at, or controlling order, how does that tie into secular beliefs today? Is it a coincidence that all cultures think order is necessary for civilization? No.
You know, it makes me think about the fact that in every false religion, there are elements of truth.
Yeah.
Everything that they believe is not false, it's just attributed to the wrong thing. But there's elements of truth in all religions, all false beliefs.
No, I agree. Take a look at part 3 concerning the Exodus. Why might ancient authors choose to frame historical conflicts like the liberation of the slaves in Egypt as a cosmic battle between rival gods? What point were they trying to make to ancient audiences? You know, I think we kind of already talked about that a little bit, but the point is God's meeting these people right where they're at. Not only are these his people, the Israelites, enslaved by Egypt, this is 200 years later, and all these generations have been brought up in Egypt. Obviously, we know some semblance of tradition was kept because we have the Torah and the original books of the Bible. But even still, you gotta recognize that they would have been teaching the enslaved children Egyptian mythology. So the writer's coming along, they're watching it happen, and then it gets reiterated so that they have seen every god they were told since birth was powerful, taken down by the new God they were supposed to believe in.
It's a prime example of audience relevance.
Yeah.
This meant something extremely significant to those the first audience
Yes.
of these words that we really don't get and have to study and be taught about to really put ourselves in their place, whereas they would have been connected.
That's a
to
great
that.
point.
And
That's
I
what they're
think-
doing valuable.
Yeah, and I think when we take it one step further, Alan gave a sermon a few Sunday backs on the gentlemen in the tribe that revolted against Aaron and Moses, and they wanted to light their candles. And then what does God do? He swallows them up in a shield. But before that happens, they make a pretty bold statement. We would rather be in Egypt. Think about what they saw happen in Egypt, and that's what they said. That makes it a little more terrifying what happened to them. Because they positioned themselves like gods, and God treated them like one.
But going back and learning like what cultures believe and how they looked at things and thought about things, when you hear the truth of what God did in Egypt, it makes it come even more alive. Like, me and Alan were talking about this earlier, the two examples this morning about the paralytic being told to get up and walk, and then Jesus showing up on the fourth day to get Lazarus. He used everything they believed against them. Because somebody with a disease or paralyzed or any kind of deformity that was born, you obviously are full of sin, or your parents are.
Yeah.
That's why you're like the way you are. And he used that thought to show them, no, see, I am God, I can do this, you know. And then with Lazarus, Jewish people in that time believed that if you were in the ground longer than 3 days, then your soul had departed. And if he would have came 1 day sooner, they could have dismissed it like, oh, he was just sleeping. His soul hadn't left yet. But he purposely showed up on the fourth day, where they couldn't argue that. And what you're doing is so important for us to understand how these people thought, their mindset.
Yeah,
You guys don't never know Dana.
Yep. Yeah.
Dana said that very same thing
Yeah.
that you said. He said it right over there in the church years ago. I remember him. I remember that. He said the reason that Jesus delayed going to raise Lazarus was because it had not been known for anybody to come back from the dead after 3 days.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
funny. He was deep into this stuff. He really was, and y'all missed something by not knowing him. He was a wonderful person.
I appreciate you doing this,
Well, thank you.
because I didn't know where they all came from. I knew the ones they believed in,
Yeah.
but I didn't know the origin of how they believed they were created.
Yeah.
You know, another point, to me, until I got into preterism and the principle of audience relevance became so important. Like, I've read these words before, and Christy just showed me a picture. We went to the, credit to her, we went to the Ark encounter,
Okay.
and there's a plaque there. She had a photo of it, and it's got the gods of Egypt and what they represented. We looked at it, we took a picture of it, and guess what?
Yeah.
It was gone. I mean,
Right.
It didn't really even register with me
Right.
because I was a different Christian back then,
Yeah.
with a different,
Yeah.
It's a different mindset.
different mindset, and so this has changed so much to where every page you have to
So
adjust that mindset.
Every page is like the deepest cave.
Yeah.
The
And then you
deepest
flip to the
cave.
next one and it's like, wow, I guess that's a little deeper.
And you're just still at the surface. You're like,
Kindergarten, baby.
Yes.
Next week, we're going to tackle Assyrian cosmology and mythology, and we're going to look at Jonah.
Awesome.
Kind of to your point, we brought up the 3 days and nights. Jonah was exactly 3 days and nights, so he doesn't get the fourth day. But I think that's also important because Jesus delivers and he tells them the sign of Jonah. So I think that's intentional not to resurrect him in 3 days, also to not muddy the water there.
Well, so that he wouldn't see corruption, because that's what David says.
yes.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
did not abandon the Holy One, so that he wouldn't see corruption.
But there's some really good stuff there. We're going to look in, obviously, the creation. We'll look into the worship kind of a little bit differently. And then we're going to look at Jonah, the time period that happened, the physical events that happened in the time of history in Nineveh shortly before the arrival of Jonah, and what the actual recorded history in Nineveh in that time says. So we'll tie that into the story of Jonah, why the historians recorded it the way they did, and how the stories match up to perfectly fall into a single generation of judgment, preterist fall timeline. So, you know, like we talk about Jesus coming 40 years after, Jonah gives the message. 40 years later, the northern kingdom is destroyed. So I think, you know, there's a lot of weight when Jesus says the sign of Jonah.
Oh, yes.
That's not as simple as resurrection. That's a big call out saying judgment's on its way. But I guess before we close class, any more questions?
You know, you look, this all sounds so ridiculous, and how could they, I mean, where did they come up with these gods? But when you look back at how, at the Tower of Babel, God, you know, divided the nations and sent them out and assigned them certain
70
gods,
nations and bunch.
that's where
Yeah.
it all came from. They didn't pull this out of their imagination. And I don't have a realization of that life, because I don't live it. All of that's gone since Christ returned. All of that is gone.
Yeah.
And so it stretches my thinking to realize all of this, you know?
I'm curious. I know this is what they believed, and they were all in with this.
Yeah.
When Moses, you know, brought them out of the land of Egypt, when all the plagues happened. But I am very curious, because I'm just curious to know if when Joseph was number 2, if this was still what they were doing, or if he, because he brought God to them, he brought
that's true. No,
God
that's true.
to them, Yahweh to them, and they knew that about Joseph, and I just
And
wondered
they
how
followed him
quick
enough to
they
give
followed.
him
Yeah,
a tomb, a pyramid. He has his own pyramids.
I mean the only thing, Moses was gone up on the mountain for 3 days, and they started building calves. So I'm like,
Moses has a pyramid too in Egypt. So there's actually a man who comes from common birth, rises up all the way up to the second highest position of Egypt. They record his history for about 40 years. He was having, in the side of a cave, they were building his tomb, and then all of a sudden like that, he disappeared from all Egyptian history. So just like Moses killed that man and then fled, just like that, this man disappears from all Egyptian history. So, and the time periods perfectly match up to when Moses would have been alive.
I just wonder how soon after the death of Joseph did they just immediately go back
Well,
to
to
this?
your point,
Oh.
the king, they came a king and didn't know God. They said, we got to get rid of these Hebrews, and he told the midwives what to do to kill the babies.
Yep.
But they feared God and didn't listen to him. So, like, there was a remnant,
There had to be.
leftover there of
Yeah.
the truth. Still, thank
Yes.
God, because that's the miracle that gave him Moses.
Because Joseph was a big deal. in Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
He was Pharaoh's right hand man. I mean, and he worshiped the Lord. You know what I mean?
You wonder if that's why he had them send his family, told him to tell them that they were farmers or whatever, and sent them as far